A man sits on the floor of a palace, not wounded, not under attack, not surrounded by enemies. He's just sitting there, head rested against his hand, staring at something in front of him. And that something is a dead tiger. A massive Bengal tiger stretched out on a blue rug, surrounded by pink roses, completely still. Two enormous green candles burn on either side of the scene like some kind of funeral vigil, and behind them, one of the most breathtaking architectural settings ever put on canvas. Arches, columns, and golden carvings so detailed that they look more like a photograph than a painting. This is The Grief of the Pasha, painted in 1882 by Jean-Léon Gérôme. And if you're wondering why a powerful military commander would be weeping over an animal, I promise you, the answer is far more interesting than you might expect. Let's start with what we actually see. The setting is extraordinary. The architecture behind the two figures is based on the Alhambra in Granada, Spain, specifically the Court of the Myrtles, one of the most famous examples of Islamic architecture in Europe. Gérôme visited the Alhambra in 1873 and again a decade later, filling his sketchbooks and collecting photographs by the Spanish photographer Juan Laurent. He used those references to build the scene from the ground up, and it shows. The horseshoe arches, the carved stucco, the bands of Arabic calligraphy running along the walls. Everything is rendered with the kind of precision that makes you lean in and forget you're looking at paint on canvas. Now look at the floor. A black and white checkered marble tile, clean and cold, leading your eye toward the center of the composition. There, on a richly woven oriental rug, lies the tiger. Its body is relaxed, almost peaceful, with its massive paws stretched forward and its head resting gently on the fabric. Scattered around it are dozens of pink roses, placed deliberately, lovingly, the way flowers are laid around a body at a funeral. This is not an animal that was hunted or killed in battle. This was someone's companion, someone's world. And to the right, the Pasha himself, dressed in a deep red robe and a green turban. He sits close to the tiger, his head leaning on his hand, his gaze turned downward. He is not dramatic. He is not screaming. He is simply broken. And that silence, that stillness, is what makes this painting so powerful. It's the kind of grief that doesn't need words, the kind that you feel in your chest. Now, here's what most people don't know. This painting wasn't born from Gérôme's imagination alone. It was inspired by a poem. In 1827, the French literary giant Victor Hugo wrote a short but devastating poem called La douleur du Pacha, The Grief of the Pasha, as part of his collection Les Orientales. The poem describes a powerful Ottoman ruler, a man called to war, a man surrounded by armies and politics and bloodshed, but none that matters to him. He sits weeping and no one understands why. Hugo spends the entire poem listing all the terrible things that could explain the Pasha's sadness, the horrors of war, the suffering of his people, the weight of his power, only to reveal, in the final lines, the true cause of his despair. His Nubian tiger is dead. That twist was the whole point. Hugo wasn't mocking the Pasha. He was showing us something deeply human, that grief doesn't follow the rules we expect it to, that sometimes a man who has witnessed the worst of humanity can hold himself together through all of it, until the one thing that was truly his, the one bond that was pure and uncomplicated, is taken away, and then he falls apart. When Gérôme was asked to illustrate a new edition of Les Orientales in 1882, he chose this poem, and he didn't just illustrate it. He turned it into one of the most emotionally charged paintings of his entire career. Jean-Léon Gérôme was, by that point, one of the most famous artists in the world. Born in 1824 in the small French town of Vesoul, the son of a goldsmith, he left home at 15 to study painting in Paris. He trained under Paul de la Roche and later Charles Gleyre, and quickly made a name for himself with dramatic historical and mythological scenes executed with extraordinary technical precision. But everything changed in 1856 when Gérôme took his first trip to Egypt and the Middle East. He traveled the Nile, crossed the Sinai, visited Jerusalem and Damascus. He returned to Paris with over 100 photographs and a sketchbook full of ideas that would define the rest of his career. From that moment on, Gérôme became one of the leading figures of Orientalism, a movement in which European artists painted scenes from the Islamic world, often combining meticulous observation with a good deal of imagination. He visited Egypt at least 6 times. He traveled to Turkey, Spain, Greece. He collected costumes, weapons, fabrics, and architectural details everywhere he went, bringing them back to his Paris studio to use as props. His paintings were praised for their almost photographic realism, and tigers. Tigers were a recurring obsession. He painted them, stalking through deserts, watching advancing troops, sprinting across sand dunes. He studied them the way Brighton Riviera studied his lions, with patience, dedication, and a kind of reverence. But in The Grief of the Pasha, the tiger is not a symbol of power or danger. It's the opposite. It is the absence of power. It is the thing that made the Pasha feel alive, now gone. What makes this painting so moving, at least to me, is how quiet it is. There's no violence, no spectacle, no drama in the traditional sense. Just a man and an animal, a rug and some roses, candlelight and silence. The roses are a particularly beautiful touch. In many cultures, roses have been associated with both love and mourning. Here, they transform the rug into a funeral bed, and the tiger into something almost sacred. It's the kind of detail that tells you this man didn't just own this animal, he loved it. And that's the deeper message of the painting, and of Hugo's poem before it. We build armor around ourselves. We accumulate power, titles, responsibilities. We harden. We learn not to flinch. But there is always something small, something personal, something that the outside world might consider trivial, that holds us together. And when that thing is gone, no amount of power can fill the space it leaves behind. Today, The Grief of Pasha hangs in the Joslin Art Museum in Omaha, Nebraska. It's not the most visited painting in the world. It doesn't have the fame of the Mona Lisa or Starry Night. But for those who stop in front of it and take the time to really look, it delivers something rare in art. It makes you feel the weight of someone else's loss, not through blood or horror, through roses and silence. I'd love to know what you think about this painting. Does the Pasha's grief resonate with you? Have you ever experienced the kind of loss that other people didn't understand? Let me know in the comments.